right, so next up we have Noitom. So Roch, that's you? You're speaking, right?
Yes.
All right. All right, so we have Roch Nakajima from Noitom.
Woo! Thanks for coming, and thanks for SVVR for all the things they've done for us over the years. We were a startup as well, and granted we were a startup in China, but all the people at SVVR, including even Bruce over here, even Bruce, even me, even people at Outspace VR's channel over there, a whole bunch of people here, really been an amazing part of the community that helped us get to where we are today, which is really awesome, and we're probably the biggest supporters for SVVR and all the work that Carl, Nana, and his entire team, which is expanding now, is doing not only here in the US, but also overseas in Japan and other places.
Excuse me, could you use the microphone a little, please?
Sorry. Anyways, so today we're presenting, you might know us, is that good? Yeah. You might know us from Perception Neuron, full body motion capture suit, which we introduced about 2 years ago, and now have sold over 5,000 units. And last year we launched Project Alice, more of a large-scale virtual reality experience, social virtual reality experience. But this year what's exciting is we've been toying around with the idea of a consumer glove for a while. We're still not sure whether it's a viable product in terms of a business product, but who cares? Our engineers really like playing with things, and I'm not in charge, so I told them that's a bad idea and they should work on something else. And they said, no, we want to do this. So they made the Noitom Hi5 VR glove. So this is what I'm wearing on my hand right now. So the glove is actually just this part. And this is HTC's new tracker that they launched at CES this year. And so we were one of the few partners with HTC that got the early prototypes of this, and we're allowed to use. So anybody who's not too familiar with HTC, the HTC Vive, it's basically tracking in three-dimensional space using the two lighthouses. So this gives you absolute positioning inside the space. And what our glove does is basically anchors the glove, and our glove is just using IMUs to position your hand and the finger movements in the space. So it's very much based on what we did with Perception Neuron. The technology is kind of the same. I'm going to show you the little video that we did. It's a great video that really shows you nothing. Because we didn't have anything really at the time. I mean, we were literally rushing to do some kind of promo video before CES, so we did this really cool video. But the idea is basically, why use a hand as opposed to a controller? And I wasn't even convinced about that. And it's funny because when we did at CES, we had a whole bunch of people using the glove, and I'm about to explain to the person using the glove what to do and how to do it, and they're already doing it. Because as opposed to a controller where I still don't understand the A, B, triangle, and circle, and X when I pick up a PlayStation controller, everybody knows how to use their hand. And there's no learning curve. Even people that had never been in virtual reality were using this, and they start playing right away, touching things and doing incredible things with the glove. And I was like, wow, this kind of like debunks my vision of what this would, of doing a consumer glove. So Yeah, it's an exciting product. If I give you a little bit of like, there's not much details right now on the specs on the glove because we're still adjusting a few things, even though we're hoping to commercialize it by April. But for the people that need a little bit more information, so we're using 5 sensors, 1 for each finger and 1 for the, 6 sensors, sorry, 1 for each finger plus 1 for the hand. They're IMU sensors. IMU sensors, for people that are not familiar with that, it's the same kind of sensor that's inside your phone. So it's an accelerometer, a gyroscope, and a magnetometer. We're outputting at 90 frames per second, 90 hertz. So what you're getting into the software is 90 frames per second. The biggest problem with IMUs is the magnetometer. The magnetometer gets affected by any kind of magnetic field, like microphone, headphones, and everything like that. So in these new IMUs that we're using, the magnetometer is constantly recalibrating itself. So you won't have a problem having to recalibrate afterwards. With the addition, of course, because we're kind of agnostic to what absolute positioning system you're using. So in this case, we're using the HTC tracker, but it could be any other positioning system. For example, in our Project Alice, we're using this glove, but we're using an optical IMU hybrid tracker. So literally, you could just change whatever you want to do if you want to have that exact positioning in space. But you do need an absolute positioning system combined with this. It's plug. We really want design because the rule was this, if this is going to be a consumer product, it's going to be plug and play, right? And consumers have zero tolerance, as opposed to most of us here, have zero tolerance for having to learn something. So even now we're thinking about some of the calibration requirements that we're saying. I mean, anybody who set up an HTC Vive, you've got to do room calibration and do all these things. Most consumers, they just want to pick up a PlayStation and turn it on and start playing. So there's still a lot of issues as to whether a consumer glove would be viable. We also did a system, so for example, the glove comes with a dongle and it has its own communication system on 2.4 gigahertz. So we're trying to simplify as many aspects as possible. So you just put the dongle inside the computer and right away your glove should work. It does, actually. Everybody's asking haptics. Haptics is really difficult. For now, we just have a rumbler inside the wrist. So, so that's controllable by the SDK. I already talked about the frequency. We are having some issues with that, but we're working on testing some other things. Power-wise, it's important to understand that the tracker itself from Vive is powered by its own internal battery. And we want, because we were designing this as well as something that we want to be able to use in a commercial setting, we simply just put a AA battery inside, so you can just recharge and put a new one. The problem with this is if you need to take it out, once it's out of batteries, you have to take it out and charge it, and you can't use it. So we want something that was continuous use. So our engineers sometimes have really, well, a lot of the times have very good ideas. Sometimes the simplest ones are the best. So we have an SDK. We will have an SDK in a couple of weeks. It's going to be Unity, UE, Unreal Engine 4, and C++. So open for anybody to develop applications for that. And of course, it's 2 hands, which you'll see over there.
This is a sandbox demo that our engineers made. So what I'm going to do right now, you can kind of see my hands already in space, pretty close together, thanks to the tracking from the HTC Vive. As Roch said, we're trying to make this try to make it as simple as possible for consumers at the end. So right now, as I said, an optional calibration. So as you can see, my thumb is a little bit far apart or too close to my hand. So what I'm going to do is just a P pose, which is just pinching my hand. Stop, please press pinch pose. Perfect. So now you can see my hands coming together. The idea for that is you'd be able to get a better finger touch drop.
Keep your hands in the middle of your field of view.
Wiggle your fingers more, that's really cool.
So one of the cool things, like I said, is just sandbox demo, kind of interact with the space around me. 0G is on right now. I'm going to go ahead and draw, paint, really nice little portrait. So, really intuitive, like Roch was saying. Hands need no explanation. Right away, you can interact. You don't need explanation. There's no manual for how to use your hand. Very simple. Pick up, interact. If you want to build, just start building. Grab the objects around you. Have fun. That's the whole point. VR shouldn't be competition. Be as simple as possible. If I want to pick a paddle, if I want to bounce a ball, I should be able to bounce it. If I want to go ahead and build a target, I should be able to come back. Oh, I disconnected myself.
Oh, you stepped on a wire?
Whoa!
Danger robot.
You can still see Tesla. Gotta restart Steam VR. That's why we need backpacks.
Yeah, we actually have backpacks. Everybody can go and try it. Let me just go back. You can restart it.
Yeah.
One of the things with the glove is we're also working on two degrees of motion on the fingers. So that's one of the really hard parts. When you have multiple IMUs close to one another, you get a lot of magnetic field. So you can actually turn it on. I was going to show you that until you crashed it. But you can do it in the game. Anybody who wants to see, being able to do, you can now, as opposed to before. What else have we put on this? They put this together in 3 weeks. So we're still working on other types of calibration to get even better accuracy with it. But again, price-wise, we want to be under $300 for the pair of gloves. That's easily accomplished, but it does not include this. So we don't know how much this is going to cost yet because HTC has not said how much this is going to cost. But we kind of have to sell our glove independent of the thing. So under 300, maybe 250 for the pair of gloves on this. That's still very high for a consumer product. But again, is there a consumer market? I mean, anybody who wants to convince me otherwise? Now, what's interesting is talking to Outspace and for gaming, we talk to the Sony people, we talk to all the different people. For gaming, there is a huge potential for a glove if it's perfect. And I was talking to Jeff yesterday from Sony, and he was saying that there's in a game, if you're going to hold something and let go of it and it doesn't drop and you lose the game because of that, you're going to be really upset. So games don't really they really need a very accurate glove. Well, to make a very accurate glove is going to cost a lot more money. But for social interaction, we all talk with our hands. I'm doing it right now. You can't talk with your hands using controllers. It's not natural. Like, if you're in VR, you're going like this, like, hey, not like Italian, hey. But with your hands, it's completely natural. And it doesn't have to be very accurate, And it's got to be very accurate, but doesn't have to be pinpoint perfect accurate. So we got to, I think at the level at which we are, I think it's already good enough. So that might be a very interesting thing, And as opposed to other things like Leap VR, we don't have problems of you can have your hands anywhere. You can play social games. Actually, our demo is for 2 people, but we didn't set up a second computer so you can throw balls at each other. No. One of the other really difficult things about gloves is the actual interaction between your hand and an object. So when does an object know whether it's you're holding it or letting go of it? And so these are still things we're working on. We got to a point where I think it's pretty good, but it needs still needs more. We're not, as humans, we're not very forgiving on those things in VR. So that's about it. So please try it out. And I thought he was going to do something really bad. People watching. There's kids here. Please try it out, and if anybody has any questions, please go ahead. If not, yes.
So I assume we're using Bluetooth to transmit data out of the gloves,
Yes.
or something in the 2.4, 2.4, and so we're getting telemetry data from the fingers, right? And it's bound to a controller.
Yeah.
This tracker deal. So I assume you have to. There's some setup to say tracker 4269 goes with my left glove, or tracker. Some way of setting that
Yeah,
up.
that's done with on Steam VR in our case.
Okay.
'Cause you have to that's kind of what's controlling it on that side.
Okay. And the other thing is, since this is written in Unity, I'm assuming you're going to have a Unity SDK.
Yes, Unity and Unreal.
You just said Unreal.
Unity and Unreal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unity's done before Unreal,
Okay.
as always, because we have a big Unity team.
Yes,
So that's
exactly.
going to be available in 2 weeks.
Is there a question over there?
Yes.
So with the actual Vive controllers, you have the app button, you've got the trigger, you've got all the menu buttons and things like that. How do you have any of that along with this, or is there any way of doing any?
We can build. I mean, in Unity you can build a lot of the trigger button. But right now, for example, those buttons are on his hand. You know, so you can do whatever you want on that side. The Vive the Vive part is just the tracker. That's what HTC is making right now. It's just a tracker. It doesn't have any of the push buttons and things like that. Yeah. Anyone else?
That's not tilt brush, what is it?
Oh, we just built that ourselves
Homegrown, yeah.
in there, just to test it out. So yeah, when you get into the game, that's the only part that needs explanation, is on your left hand, you'll have 2 controls. Can you show your left hand? Your other left hand. Oh yeah, sorry. So just touch that, and it'll turn on the colors, whatever. And then to paint, you use your right hand, you pinch your right hand and you can paint, and then with your left hand, by increasing or decreasing the amount of space, you make a different size.
Does that come with the glove?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're improving this sandbox. Obviously, this, like I said, we rushed to get it done in 3 weeks, and you can do a lot of fun stuff with that. So yeah, please afterwards play around with it. Thank you.
You could say, will your dongle burn up a USB 3.0 port? Is USB 3.0 going to be a requirement?
No, it's not. We're not using 3.0.
No.
It's 2.0.
2.0.
Yeah.
And will you have a program in place for people who would like to integrate this into their projects?
Yes.
SDKs and
Yes.
gloves?
So right now we have 7 worldwide right now, and I have 2 pairs. And HTC is trying to take all of ours to put on the road show. So that's the other thing too, is they're redesigning the glove. I complained that the glove was too bulky. But for B2B, like if let's say I'm Disney World and I want to put people through a VR experience, I need something that's really solid. And they're only going to be in it for like 5-10 minutes and then be done. So I need something that's going to hold up to just from the fabric point of view. But for a consumer, this is like, it's cold here, but trust me, where we're in Miami, you wear this for like 5 minutes and your hand is like sweating.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. So they're simplifying and making it a lot lighter. You'll be able to see it. It's still a work in progress.
In the meantime, how quick could I get my hands on this to start integrating it?
We are not going to get any units that are for developers until end of March because of the redesign. I wish it was otherwise, because I have a lot of people that need to start playing around with it, including Outspace and some other folks, but they just don't have them. So it's like the balloon guy is that.
I wish I could come out shooting.
So yeah, as soon as we have a website, it's Noitom Hi5 VR Glove.
Yeah, hi5vrglove.com.
or Noitom has them.
Thank you.
Yes.
So any plans for Bluetooth connection to phones?
Yes.
And stuff?
Yes. So of course, yeah. If this works with Daydream or anything like that, it makes a lot. You still need a positioning system, you know. And right now, mobile does not have a very reliable positioning
So
system.
just the INUs and like being able to.
Yeah, but then you're just kind of like a hand in space. You still need something to anchor to move it. So the only way to do that is to add another sensor up here, which was our original design. We actually sell the product that we kind of like gave up on. If you go on, I think how much is the glove online?
$149.
Yeah, $149. We have
Actually, I think it's $100 right now.
really?
$99. Yeah.
So it's one of our original designs. It's using perception neuron, and we did only 3 sensors on here because with IKA we could just nobody uses this. It was like, oh, who's going to do this in a game? Well, some people said we really want that. That's why we have 5. So it's 3 sensors, one on the hand, one on the wrist, and one on the arm. What that allows you to do is to using the IKA to be able to like know where your arm is in space. But if you just have the hand, then it's just this in space. There's no data to position it vis-a-vis where your face is. So those are limitations. Yes, sir.
Have you talked to the Antilox bodysuit people, and would there be any problem using your systems together?
No, I mean, so it's going to be an open system for people to develop whatever they want to develop on there. So yeah, no, I welcome anybody to like play around with it once we get it off the ground.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hope you were not doing anything molesting me. Being molested.
All right, thanks. That was awesome.